Well, just for you, Dan, exclusively for you and for GB News, I commissioned an opinion poll from the very, very good company Find Out Now earlier today, and I have the results. Usual caveats, in fact, more than the usual caveats, is it's raw data, it's not weighted, it's not a representative sample, it's people who they ring up. Around 4,000, almost 5,000 people, it's still going on. And of people who were considering voting Labour, that means Labour supporters and floating voters and so on, people who are considering voting Labour tomorrow, round about 12% say that their vote may be affected by Beergate and Growlergate, possibly, and all the other gates which the Labour Party has very kindly bestowed upon us recently. So it's about 12%. 33% said it wouldn't bother them one way or the other and couldn't give a monkeys, and another 30-odd% said that they would never consider voting Labour anyway. So it is hitting home. Whether it's quite as bad as the FT has it tomorrow morning, which is, I think the FT headline is that Labour is running scared that voters are running away from them over Beergate particularly. So it's hit home. It hasn't hit home anywhere like it did for Boris Johnson back in January and indeed into early February, and even a little bit more now. Back then, Labour went 11 points ahead in the polls in the red wall areas. They're still 7 to 8% ahead in the polls in the red wall areas, and increasing their lead in London. So those are two areas where they're very, very, very vulnerable indeed. And, you know, people are talking about the Labour Party winning 16 councils. My guess is that the catastrophe for the Conservatives won't be quite on that scale. I'm trying to do my John Curtis impression here, by the way. I hope you're impressed.
I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed, Rod. That was brilliant work. And look, 12% still is significant. Potentially means they'll lose 1 in 10 of their voters tomorrow. And of course, it is a difficult climate for Labour because of when the last local elections were. Rod, I think one thing that would have increased that number was if the mainstream media, so, you know, the BBC, Sky News, ITV News, had treated the Beergate scandal in the same way they treated the number 10 Partygate scandal. Because, you know, for me, I'm actually not bothered by either of them. I think the rules were an ass. But what I am bothered by is the complete lack of consistency over the way Boris Johnson was treated compared to how Starmer's being treated.
I don't think there's the slightest doubt about that. I mean, I have to say, I think Partygate is more serious because it involved consecutive acts of deception and consecutive flouting of the rules. So I think it was of a greater magnitude than Keir and his beers. But that being said, you're absolutely right, and it's very predictable. Well, the Daily Mail was leading on it for 7 mornings out of 7 last week, I think it was. The BBC News scarcely touched it. You're absolutely right. And I don't suppose, Dan, you will be enormously surprised by that. It hasn't changed very much. I'd just say one more thing and this is a plug, really. There's been a huge growth in independent councils over the last 15 to 20 years, particularly in my neck of the woods up here in Durham, where we've got loads of them, and in Teesside. There's an awful lot of very complacent Labour authorities and pretty complacent Conservative authorities, and you do wish that there was that we could get rid of first past the post for our council elections, have a bit of PR, and a shout out to Wayne Dixon, who is trying to break the mould in Leeds, standing for the Social Democrats, and a great bloke. But the weight is against all these independents and all these minor parties, and it'll be a straight fight between Labour and the Conservatives. I noticed that the Greens have slipped massively in the polls because, you know, they're not going to win councils, so people are voting Labour or Tory, and it makes it a bit monolithic.